Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. One more email. Ed raises the question of whether term limits in this plan by President Biden would apply to currently sitting justices. And he says what would surely cool the Democrats' ardor for term limits is language like this. No person may serve more than 18 years as a justice. This article shall not apply to any person holding the office of justice of the Supreme Court when this article was proposed by the Congress. And he points to the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, which put term limits on the President of the United States and includes exactly that kind of language. This article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president when this article was proposed. And Kim, this is another fascinating thing that I think the Biden proposal, such as it is fudging, because we are not really getting an explanation of how they intend this to work. The Supreme Court Commission that Biden set up floated this idea that there would be a law by Congress that would redefine the role of Supreme Court justice, and after a certain term, then justices would automatically become senior justices and lose the ability to hear cases. But this, again, is from the Biden Commission. They write, proponents of that plan believe that Congress may redefine the office prospectively. Thus, for all new appointments made after the statute takes effect, the office of Justice to the Supreme Court would mean serving as a junior justice for the first 18 years. And so, Kim, I mean, this whole thing seems so half-baked to me. If they're going to do this by statute and every president is going to get 2 appointments to the Supreme Court, but it doesn't apply to the current justices, then are you going to add justices for a while? And then we could get up to, 14 justices. And then as the current justices leave, then we would go back to 9. There's not really a plan that is being explained to the public about how any of this is supposed to actually function.
Right. Of course, it's half-baked, and of course it's problematic, and of course they're not giving us all the answers and they're fudging on this because it's not even necessarily something that I even believe Joe Biden intellectually agrees with. He is doing this for political purposes. This is why even when that commission came out with its proposals, he didn't move on any of them at the time. By the way, he only came up with that commission in the beginning because he wanted to dodge having to come down firmly on this issue, kind of skate out of having to commit to anything practical because his left was demanding that he do it only now that they are concerned about losing the White House and their desire to enthusiasm their liberal base, are they piling on to these proposals? And those questions of how a statute would be written are absolutely key because they get to the question of whether it's remotely constitutional. Now, I would argue in no form it probably is. But the point that the commission was making is that even if you go down this road, we don't know if it's constitutional, but most scholars say that it's going to have to be structured in such a way. That's not part of the Biden proposal. It's just this vague, fuzzy thing because they want the talking point without having to be dragged into a conversation about whether or not what they're proposing is even feasible or workable or constitutional. People should look at this for exactly what it is, which is a political pandering to a base that doesn't have a lot of thought or intellectual rigor behind it.
But is it political pandering that has a shot at working, Bill, or is there a real chance of a backfire here? I thought it was an odd choice for the president in his last 6 months of office to come out in favor of this kind of structural reform that Kamala Harris, the new Democratic nominee for president, would have to take a position on. And maybe that would have given her an opening to look less radical, more moderate, more incremental. She could have said something like, I don't believe in changing the rules of the game in the middle of the game, but I'm going to win 2 terms in the White House and I'm going to get to appoint some justices and we're going to move the court back to where we want it to be. But that is not the line at all that she has taken. She has joined into this whole plan. This is what she said recently. President Biden are calling on Congress to pass important reforms. These popular reforms will help to restore confidence in the court, strengthen our democracy, and ensure no one is above the law. unquote. But Bill, I guess I just find myself wondering whether there are centrist voters, swing voters, people who are not really thrilled about the idea of voting for Donald Trump again. But then the other alternative now they are faced with is maybe a Democratic sweep of Congress that does a wholesale restructuring of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, maybe. I think they're less interested in seeing it pass than in putting it out there. Look, let's be clear. There's two aspects of this. One is that the Democrats often want to change the rules when the rules don't give them the outcome they want. That's true a couple of years ago when they were calling to abolish the Electoral College. It's true when they're calling to abolish the filibuster in the Senate. And it's true now. They just don't like rules. And whenever they constrain them or they feel constrained by the rules of the game, they call for changing them. The second part is this is really about discrediting the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, in, I think, the Journal's opinion, is the only institution in Washington that is functioning as it ought. And they hate Sam Alito for the Dobbs decision. They hate Clarence Thomas for almost any decision he's been involved in. And all the other conservative justices have basically been attacked one way or the other. This is another way to do it. It's politics. Even if they don't get the change they want or the change they say they want in the rules, they kind of cast a cloud over the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. And they hope to intimidate by that.
Thank you, Bill and Kim. Thank you all for listening. You can email us your own Supreme Court proposals at pwpodcast@wsj.com. If you like the show, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back next week with another edition of Potomac Watch.